Hello and welcome to the show. It's 6 in the morning. I slept very little, not last night, but the night before that, and I didn't sleep at all last night. I'm not having a good day. I was supposed to get my passport back from a friend yesterday, and I need my passport for the doctor's visit, and he didn't respond, which means that my passport may or may not be lost to the astral winds forever. And well, to put it bluntly, I'm going to smoke for a while. And the doctor's appointment is at 1 p.m. And I'm going to stop smoking at about 9 a.m. That will give me 4 hours to come down. And that is only because I am looking to be at a specific point of relaxation. And if I appear haggard and wasted in the wrong way, it'll be very bad. And I have to think of my story to put it right in what I actually plan for the next 3 months. Because every 3 months, when we discuss what my plans for the next 3 months are and how I completed my plans for the last 3 months. We aren't focusing on large things. And one of the large things that I eventually want to focus on, but not today, is getting off these meds. But as we have stated in our quarterly evaluation, that is not going to happen soon. And now that I'm on the lowest dose and 3 dosages in, I am in fact anticipating the injection. I'm not dreading it. I'm at the dose where it feels like something I look forward to, not a life-changing burden that I have to cope with or rebel against. It's something that helps me get along. It's a little bothersome for the first couple of days to a week, but I've learned to schedule my budget so that when I get the injection, the first week will be spent doing something besides pondering the injection. It's not something I want to have anything to do with mentally at that level. And then a couple of weeks after that, I'll do a lot of writing. I'll do a lot of artwork for my channel for the next couple of months. Then the effect gets too dark and then I'll slow down. By that I mean the symptoms will slowly start to take over. Now, some of the discomfort that I feel around my life daily, some of the thoughts, actions, interactions are eased by the medication. There are certain degrees of trouble and difficulty around me that are not personal to anybody, are impersonal, but surprisingly, and in my worldview, very alarmingly, sedating me reduces those symptoms, and those symptoms are mostly anger directed at me. And since in our system, amongst humans, the violence monopoly, in that if it comes down to the question of do we medicate you or protect you, the state always answers we protect you, because the state has this thing called violence monopoly, meaning that if anybody participates in violence in their area, the state is legally obligated to do whatever they want to do about it, which in this model often coincides with in physical violence siding with the poor party. Other aspects are corrupt, But when it comes to physical violence, there is rarely corruption. What I'm pointing at here is that when the doctors evaluate me, they note that there is a degree of attack towards me. I have something in my persona which so deeply troubles others that they're willing to attack me. Now, the state, before the matter goes to the doctor, offers me the diplomatic package in that I live in this quasi world. I'm not connected to the real world, but I'm in what you could call a safe house. And that is because if you go through the kind of emotional trauma that I've gone through in my childhood and you truly call for help, the gods may not hear you, but the police do. Which leads me to the point of physical violence tends to provoke a state reaction, emotional violence, not so much, which leads to other points. But with regard to the point of safe house like life, when you reach a state of suicidal depression and a state official notices that, there are certain things that happen. I cannot go into detail because were I to go into detail and be correct, it would lead to a massive increase in suicidal ideation. But the state notices. God may not, but the state does. And certain pathways are not forced upon you, but they are opened to you. You have been wronged in the way that if you simply seek the comfort of people who do not wrong you and define you for yourself what it is not to wrong you, you will live in a situation that is remarkably similar to a hallucination, but it is closer in reality, in what I observed, to a group hallucination. You sidestep from the official culture into a side culture. And as long as there is a leading culture, that culture is reality, and the side cultures are hallucinations. But when most people no longer hallucinate among the terms of the official culture, one of the side cultures regains dominance or gains dominance. And this is the political process. So, because I do not adhere to being in the culture of the largest in my region, I am, as far as I understand, in a culture of the minority. And in my case, in my specific case, the minority I'm in can be described as Astral Healthcare Center. When you are hurt the way I was hurt in my childhood, you are not capable of thinking in terms you were before. The change to the persona who has given up but psychotically continues to move forward with pure inertia is stark. And when that inertia is surrendered to, and your movement is paused, what happens is that you spin around in this disk around this object of gravity. And when you move, you go sometimes up and sometimes down and sometimes left and sometimes right. You just wobble around this disk pretty randomly. But when you focus on the surrender part, in that you surrender to the hallucination, knowing that it is a hallucination, knowing the terms of its hallucination. You no longer move while you still orbit. And then what happens is your mass decreases and your movement speed increases. And eventually you form a ringularity, if you will. It is a difficult concept for many to understand, but what you form is a being whose light does not just glow like a normal person's light does, but is an infinitely bright orbit around a non infinite object. And its infinity comes from the fact that it exists in our plane and has no mass, because it has relaxed so much that it just carries on. And if you are that being, you feel that you are orbiting God. It can be put anyway, but it is orbiting God. And you realize very quickly how pointless that sensation is. It is boring. It is literally the feeling of death without the anxiety involved with dying. You're just sitting next to God. It's a gravity, any kind of gravity object. If you're an electron, your God is a proton in hydrogen. If you're a planet, your God is the sun, the thing you orbit. And when you just orbit and put no effort into anything, the world transcends physical boundaries and laws, but is, after a while, very, very boring, which is why I'm quitting. Not doing it today, not doing it tomorrow, but I am quitting. That much I know. I used to think that I might go off weed, but if somebody offers me weed, sure, I'll smoke it. But I changed that in the past couple of months to after I quit weed, which I'm sure I will. I don't yet know how long it'll take, but I know that I will. My opinion is that it's just boring. That's all I need to say about it. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm just saying the thing this does biochemically to your brain. I'm not talking about the toxins, the dangers, the side effects. I'm talking about specifically the intended effect, assuming there's no downside. Is not me. It literally is almost the exact opposite of me. I mean, literally. Because this thing drops you to the center of your brain. And in the first 100 times you're doing it, it's very fun from the center to run towards the edge of your brain and start to hallucinate and drop into those stoner fantasy type things. But after a while, you just feel like you fell into yourself. And there's a very tiny but detectable extra layer of having to put effort into work. So if you, for example, want to take a shower, it's not a 5 minute deal getting undressed and walking into the shower. It might take you half a day to get into the shower, but you know you'll get there. There's this extra when you're doing things. So for some people, especially what in the Barbara Ann Brennan series books are called oral personality types, where the basic lack of life that they detect is in, shall I say, nourishment. It's a pretty wide topic, but let's say nourishment. For those kinds of people, smoking weed while you do art makes you heavier when you're lighter, and it makes you drag your own thoughts down so you can actually visualize and verbalize what you're seeing. For those kinds of people, it might be the best thing ever. But for somebody who believes they're literally God having a daydream, and they already have that level of control over their own mind, they literally feel like God in their own mind, smoking weed might not be the best idea. Because there are two options. One, you're wrong about it, and smoking weed will ensure that you understand that you're not, in fact, powerful or God. In other words, you're planning for a bad trip. Or you are, in fact, somebody whose brain is being used by our society to maintain our society. You're not just a denizen, you're one of those computer cores that our society needs. In which case, throwing a bomb at it is going to cause hospitals to explode. It's going to cause pandemics. It's going to cause war. So I wouldn't recommend it. You have to very carefully observe if the when you move forward in your mind, if the movement forward seems to be counterproductive at sometimes, this person could occasionally take a break and look at themselves for real, not just relax, like have an introspective day truly. Then it's perhaps a good occasional medication. But if you're severely depressed, leading a dual life, and have a great deal of undealt emotional trauma, when it's actually showing you the state of what you feel like when it's dealt and you return to normality, the addiction can be quite severe. On the other hand, if the person is able to use the state to improve themselves, the effect is very stark. Then again, if the person's attempts to improve themselves happen to hit the kinds of road walls that mine did, it might lead you to 10 years in solitary. See, I have this system on due to this being an alien thing where I can technically be imprisoned by the state, but for 99.99% of the crimes that I do, such as pirating, the downside is a lowering in my standard of living. For example, if I pirate, games become simpler. If I steal, food becomes more expensive. But for somebody like me, who is used as an archetype that many follow to do their own personal actions, doing a little bit of harm can be multiplied into massive amounts of harm. So it is not always recommended. It is, in fact, quite counterproductive. I'm losing my track of thought every here and there, but it's coming back to me also here and there. I cleaned up my channel to a great degree. I used to have about 800 non-live videos, and I didn't remove any live videos because they're like 95% just random stuff that can't be considered art. It's at most watching art. But the videos tab used to have a shit ton of like non-art videos, like random gameplay files and such. So I removed everything that didn't have a comment or a like on it. So now it's considerably sharper. Went through the signal by hand. Took me a while. Pay your taxes.
You gotta give me back my customers are walking around in the pipes. Next time pay your taxes. But I don't want to.
I'll pay some taxes. Don't exactly know how. Don't exactly know how much, but I'll pay some taxes. Ensiksi mun pitää jotenkin saada kaikkiin niihin, jotka on siinä mun verkossa sillä lailla, että mä saan siitä jonkinmoisen semmoisen yhteiskäsityksen, että kuka tekee mitäkin, että mä saan jotain arvioita siitä se alueen BKT:stä, että mä osaan sanoa, että paljon siitä pystyy maksamaan edes veroa. Ja miten sen veron pystyisi keräämään, kun mä veikkaan, että siitä valtion massasta, niin on, tai siis alueen BKT:stä, niin on valtion palveluksessa joku promillen tuhannesosa. Ehkä. Veikkaan, että loput tekee jotain semmoista niin kuin ja muuta. Oho. Nyt on vasemmalle hyvin. Nykin oikein kunnolla. Pari päivää sitten oli semmoinen, että oikea puoli jysähti niin, että mun nyki koko kehoni ainakin joku 1,5–2 tuntia. Sillä että istuu paikalla yhtäkkiä vaan sykäseen, kun sähköisku yleensä. Se on se, kun se keho reagoi siihen piikin kipuun. Tässä tapauksessa se on siis se, kun ne kerää niitä vastakkaispainoja niiden ulkopuolisten päälle, että joku laskisi, kun ei halua laittaa omiaan tekemään semmoista. Mä menee ensimmäinen viikko ja 3 tässä. Tykkään tästä matalimmasta dosista lähinnä sen takia, että nyt tuntuu siltä, että mä otan oikein mukavasti sitä, että se tulee. Eikä sillä, että mua niinku häiritsee se, että on koko ajan semmoinen lääkitty olo ja semmoinen paska. Nyt mä tiedän, että mulla on semmoinen lääkitys, mitä mä odotan.
The answer to your question is yes.
Tietysti skitsofreenikko, joka hakee lääkkeensä sillä lailla, jes, vittua vaan. Ei sillä lailla pääsee normaaliin, vaan sillä lailla, että tuntuu kemikaalinen. Semmoinen, joka pelkää, että hyökkää tähän kiinniin, se kemikaali, mitä teidän lääkintähoito antaa, niin on näytöntä. Se tarkoittaa silloin sitä, että ne ei vielä usko, että sen psykiatrisen kimppuun käy joku, mutta ja pelaa kuin talo. Jos luot Warhammer 40 sen niin kuin mytologian, niin pelaa ihan kuin talo. Ja näin ole talo.
secondary explosion, whether that was well, the first explosion.
Clean passport, plane tickets, a bank card to a well-funded account in your new name. Please, Mr. Peck, for your own sake, and quite frankly for mine, go and live your life. Find some secrets of your own. And if you really need a mystery, I recommend the human heart. How do you know all this? Because I built it.
Me is one of the very few people in the astral who I work through a lot, and they don't like really understand that I work through them a lot. Is one of the very few people is Elon Musk, because they believe they're the top dog. That's not the case, but they're pretty high. They're the millennials space-time bank account, or he's the millennial space-time bank account. We're all banking our stuff on when anybody asks us, who's your leader? That take me to your leader question. We think Elon Musk. That's why he's there. And it's the space stuff. Other people have other things. What would I say to Elon Musk? Well, you might want to reread how people have imagined implants to work from various points of view, and really delve deep into the sci-fi as to how implants are supposed to work. I don't know which is the right path, but if you only see one path, you're not seeing the big picture. Implants are like mobile phones. They come in different shapes and sizes. You want me to honestly answer that one? Astral Elon Musk is asking jokingly how many implants you have. Like in a corporate setting with like his guys around him. And my answer is
We are currently waiting to receive a live broadcast from DED headquarters in Ulai, where the body of a drifter was delivered earlier today for analysis. The 4 scientists who performed the preliminary autopsy have provided the scope with an exclusive first look at the full autopsy report. The report confirms similarities between Drifter and Jove genetics, despite significant physical differences. Noted by doctors Anslo Tetua and Mizir Star Surge was the odd absence of vocal cords and abnormal blood composition, the latter believed to be connected to the low-level radiation still being emitted post-mortem. The autopsy also confirms that the augmentation present in the subject is necessary for its survival. Further study is already underway at It would appear that the broadcast has started. After an initial statement, we expect that we will be permitted to ask questions.
It does appear that the broadcast signal has been lost. However, the listener will finish the broadcast as he...
Saved is the one common thought shared by the people living in Sumi as large Edencom defense and construction fleets take up positions in the system, declaring that the system shall be an impregnable fortress. Edencom Provost Marshal Kasia Valkanier has promised that under no circumstances will
This was
triangulated Asian
in
forces be allowed
2020.
to achieve victory against
So.
this Edencom stronghold. This is Alton Hovery reporting for the Scope.
There it is, sir. It's like a hole in space.
Oh, we're acquainted with the wormhole phenomenon, but this seems quite different. What do your sensors indicate?
Nothing, sir. Nothing.
Mr. Data, you must mean that it's empty of matter. There's always some energy formed to it.
Sir, our sensors are showing this to be the absence of everything. It is void without matter or energy of any kind. Yet this hole hasn't been dated as height, width. Perhaps. Perhaps not, sir.
It's hardly a scientific observation, Commander.
Captain, the most elementary and valuable statement in science, the beginning of wisdom is, I do not know. I do not know what that is, sir. When Columbus's armada landed in the Caribbean, I don't think he could see the ships, even though they existed on the horizon. The reason that they never saw the ships was because they had no knowledge in their brains or no experience. He starts to notice that there's ripples out in the ocean when he sees no ship, and he starts to wonder what's causing the events. So every day he goes out and looks and looks and looks, and after a period of time, he's able to see the ships. And once he sees the ships, he tells everybody else that ships exist out there. Because everybody trusted and believed in him, they saw them also. They're not beings. They're us.
What have you done for Earth? Do for me. For all of us. For people couldn't build this.
No, not yet. One day, not you and me, but people, civilization, it's all past the fourth dimension that we know. What happens now?
I'm not very good at singing songs, but here's a try.
Mulla siinä tavalla tulee ihan pikkasen ohi siitä, mitä lähteistä
From scratch. You must first invent the
Siis paljon
universe.
sitä on. Siinä on se Live Through Adventure juttu. Kelaa itse, että sun pelihahmo tulee juttelemaan sulle. Puhut puoli vuotta sen kanssa sillä, että käyt siellä joku 5 kertaa viikossa. Semmoinen, jonka sä oot luullut, että on sun sisäinen fantasia. Tulee siihen viereen sillä, että ei kun tää menee näin. Ja sit käydään ihan käsipelillä, että miten nämä etnisyydet muodostaa nämä eri arkkityypit ja näin poispäin. Ja sillä, että kun sä fantasioit valkoisena tonne suuntaan, niin nämä ja nämä etnisyydet täällä liikkuu tähän ja tähän suuntaan. Sitten kokeillaan. Sä otat tosta kiinni ja sitten mä sanon täältä jonkun ajatuksen sen pään sisältä. Sitten se meni sillä lailla. Sitten mä pelleiltiin sen kanssa niin kauan, että mä olin sillä lailla, että on tällaisia paljon mä juttuun tästä. Mä teen tämän koko homman uusiksi. Se on sillä sitten. Mä vähän aikaa mietin, että mitä mä tässä nyt vielä teen. Näyttää, että mun menee vielä puoli vuotta ja sitten mä oon valmis. 3 kuukaudessa lähtee röökiin. Siitä mä vapaan itselleni varmuuden vuoksi 3 kuukautta, siihen lähtee vielä budjetti. Sitten mulla on vaan laitti energiajuomaa. Sitten mä en polta budia vaikka tarjottaisi. Koska nämä aina kuitenkin tarjoaa sen röökin kanssa ja ei mua kiinnosta. Ei kukaan polta puolesta jorttia. Se on ihan sama mulle sitten.
Self-evident?
Writing. First draft.
Alright. There are your sentiments. Every single word was precisely chosen. So you're Dr. Franklin. Yours will not be the only hand in this document. Cannot be. They will try to mangle it, and they may succeed. There may be expressions which I'm not at eternity if I had drawn it up, but I will defend every word of it. That's what I believe. This is a marvelous invention, Mr. Jefferson. Listen, I went through a number of variations. This is by far the most successful. Simplest is always best. It's 2 seats, and the top one swivels on rollers made from the no-such point. Oh, whoops, jeez. Please. Is that a copy of our Constitution? Yes. You know this document? Yes, I do. I have many questions. Well, that's a good thing. Hopefully, over the course of the week, for example, it says here, President shall be commander of Army, Navy, etc. Yes. Here, it says, Congress shall have power to declare war. Yes. Commander does not declare war. Theoretically, Congress needs to. Theoretically. So, your habit is to ignore a document. No. Well, occasionally. Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning.
Toby, good to see you. Grab a sandwich on this end. I think I'm managing to pick up a few phrases. It's not all that different from Polish, actually.
Still on a lunch break.
Oh, they love the roast beef.
We're giving them a 2-hour lunch after wasting the morning on a system of government that's never going to work for these people.
I wouldn't call it a waste.
These guys have to walk out of this building on Friday with a set of laws to take back home to Minsk.
Not a set of laws, a sense of the rule of law.
You're not planning on writing a constitution this week?
passed a law making it illegal to teach anything other than English during World War I. Meyer wanted to teach German. Supreme Court said the law was unconstitutional.
Good. Now, where in the Constitution does it say you've got a right to teach German in school?
You're saying the document is irrelevant?
No. I'm saying the document is just the beginning. A constitutional democracy succeeds only if the Constitution reflects democratic values already alive in the citizenry.
Yes, but these Belarusians don't have those values.
Which is why our most important job is to instill those values in their leaders through discussion and debate.
He's talking about 8 guys on a sightseeing trip to Washington. You think you teach democratic values to these 8 guys, you're going to reverse 50 years of brutal dictatorship?
Mr. Holocaust was known as a